Hello. So, I have the 50 books that I want to read before I'm 50 or before I die or whatever we're going to call it. Hopefully I'll turn 50 before I die. But these are books that I've just had on my list forever. So I am going to start. I'm putting them by their average Goodreads ratings, and I'm putting them lowest to highest so that I don't know. I don't know much about most of these books. A lot of them are either classics or they're just books that I was interested in years ago. There's a few that are more current that I just have been like eyeing and thinking, I really want to read that. So a lot of these are going to be classics though that I just haven't gotten to at this point in my life. And I mean, obviously I was a lit major. I'm pretty well read in terms of like the big classics. So most of those I've read, but there's still a lot I haven't. So, all right. So then I guess here we go. The first one is The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. And this is there because I'm pretty sure this was like one of the first like gothic horror kind of books. I think. Obviously I've read Frankenstein, and I think this is up there though as one of those like classic gothic things. So I have it, and it's on my list to read. The Leftovers by Tom Perrotta is actually here because I started it. I loved it. I love his stuff. I don't know what happened. I've had it on my Kindle for like 10 years, and I started it, liked it, and then just got distracted, and like, I don't know. Something happened, and I wasn't reading for a while, and then I just never got back to it. And then the show came out, and I never watched it, because I was like, I'll finish the book first. So I'm going to finish this book because, I mean, obviously I'm going to have to restart it at this point because I don't remember anything about it except, some people were gone. But yeah, so I want to get back to it. The next one is The Circle by Dave Eggers. This is just, I mean, obviously it's not necessarily a classic, but it just has always really intrigued me. Like the concept really interests me. And I know there was a movie made of it. Haven't seen that, because I always have this thing where I'm like, oh, I'll read the book first. And then, 20 years go by and I don't read the book or see the movie. But it just interests me. I'm not a huge like sci-fi person, but I think it's like sci-fi dystopian sort of social commentary, which I am a fan of. The next one is The House of Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne, and I feel like I'm like the worst like Massachusetts born human that has not read this. I've been to the House of the Seven Gables many times. I just have not read the book. So I started it. But I started it when I was, like, really young. I mean, like, probably 10. So, reading Nathaniel Hawthorne by yourself, like, at 10 years old, and I just could not get into it because I was like, wow, this is really boring. So, I think now, I'm kind of ready to read that. I didn't like Scarlet Letter in high school, and then when I reread it as I got older, I could, like, really appreciate it more. So, I think, obviously I'm ready to read it. I just haven't really gotten to it. So, I'm kind of like, this list will force me to kind of start dusting off those old classics and maybe throw one in every month or every couple months. The next one, not a classic, is The Final Girl Support Group. I've never read any of Grady Hendrix's work. Sir Chunk has read it. He didn't really like him. I'm wary because I like horror comedy, but it's so hard to pull off effectively because either it ends up being too funny that the horror part doesn't work, or the horror is there and the comedy feels like it's in the wrong place. So I'm curious, but I've had this book forever. The concept sounded interesting. So I'm like, okay, that's it. I've got to read something by him. Obviously I'm not going to read all of these this year. I'm not going to be 50 this year, thankfully. But, and over the next few years, my goal is to kind of like start knocking this list down. So then the next one is Six Suspects, by, I'm not going to even try to say his last name because I'm sure I'll mess it up. This is just, it's supposed to be like a really, really good mystery thriller. but it's not like Western or American, I don't think. And so I've been really like enjoying like Japanese literature. So I just kind of I'm like, I want to read all the big like mysteries, like sort of the classics. And I'd like to read beyond, obviously like British and American and maybe a few Australians. Like I'd like to try to read some other mysteries as well. The next one is This Side of Paradise, which could actually be that or Beautiful and the Damned or whatever. I kind of basically just want to read something else by Fitzgerald that isn't, I have Trimalchio, which is his like lost book or something. Or like the inspiration for Gatsby or something. I don't know. I have it. I had watched a whole movie and documentary about it, and then I don't remember what it is, but I do have that. But I love Gatsby, and I feel like I've never read anything else of Fitzgerald, so I'm like, okay, maybe I should read something else. So I have a bunch of his other books, so I just want to finally read one. I have Digital Fortress by Dan Brown, and that could also be like swapped for Deception Point. I'm not sure. Digital Fortress, I think, sounds more interesting to me, but I obviously liked the Robert Langdon books. And I kind of missed some of the fun, like just the easy, fun, like can't put it down kind of nature of Dan Brown's books. The last couple really like went off the rails and were just not really good for me, of the Langdon books, but I haven't read his pre-Langdon stuff. So I kind of do want to read these. Probably, like I said, Digital Fortress sounds a little more up my alley. So it seems a little more like timely as well. The Chalkman by C.J. Tudor. I've read one thing by C.J. Tudor and I really liked it. And the Chalkman sounds like a serial killer type thing, and I like that kind of stuff. So this is, again, mixed in with some classics or just books that I'd like to either read something by the author or continue to read more by the author. The next one's A Bright Ray of Darkness, which I have, and that's from Ethan Hawke, because I absolutely loved Ash Wednesday. I adored it, and I read it in college, and it was kind of like parallel for me, like my life and the point in my life I was in. And obviously like Ethan Hawke is around the same age as me, so we're like generationally the same. So I'm very curious to read his books about like being an adult, like at this point, because this is his newer one. And I really liked his writing. I was really surprised, but, so I'm curious. I just haven't read anything else of his, so. And then Before the Fall by Noah Hawley. This is actually the guy who writes Fargo, which is great, and the writing's good. And this sounds really interesting. It almost sounds a little bit like Lost. Could be completely not. That could just be my interpretation of, like, the summary. But I've had this book. I have it both on my Kindle and the physical copy. And for some reason, I just have not read it, and I want to, so... I'm probably going to end up having to swap something in because I didn't realize I had put 2 Eric Larson books on here. I put Thunderstruck, but I think I changed my mind and I would rather read Deadwake, which is the one about the Lusitania, because the Lusitania is really interesting to me. All of them, his stuff I'm sure is interesting, but last year I finished my goal of reading Devil in the White City, and I liked it, and before I'd ever read any of his stuff, I'd bought all of his books, and so I think I want to read the Lusitania one, so that's Deadwake, so I'll probably swap something out for Thunderstruck at some point. And you know what? Let's be honest. In the next few years, something will probably come out that I'll really want to read. So, and I can just count that. In the Woods, which is Tana French. I've actually started this, and I really liked it. I thought the writing was fantastic. And then for some reason, I just put it aside, and it got like buried under a bunch of stuff, and I never got back to it. And it's something I've been telling myself for years I was going to get back to. So I want to get back to it. I want to finish it. Elegance of the Hedgehog. I don't really know much about this. I know it's about like an apartment in Paris or something, but apartment building. The thing with this book is I bought this book. I was convinced I was going to love it. And then it's just sat on my shelf for like 20 something years. And so, or maybe 15, I don't know, but it's been forever. And when I read Strange and Oral, that had been on my shelf for like 20 years or close to. And I kept being like, oh yeah, I should read that book. And I bought it. I bought it because someone recommended it to me. And it was like, I bought it. It was fairly new at the time. And I've had it on my shelf and just stared at it for years and never read it. And I loved it. It was one of my favorites last year. So I'm kind of thinking, all right, maybe I should go to some of these books that I've just had forever that I just, for some reason, never got to. So this is one of those. The next one is a classic. It's Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I mean, I think this is right up my alley in terms of like, women, horrible things happen to them, trying to deal with them. So I like this kind of era, like British Victorian literature. So I do want to read that. That's just been one of those like long ones that for some reason in all of my classes, I just never got to Thomas Hardy, only his poetry. The next one is Ghost Ship, the mysterious true story of the Mary Celeste and her missing crew. I just find the Mary Celeste super interesting and I want to read about this. And it's funny because I make fun of Sir Chong for all of his boat books. And then like all the nonfiction I have, like even the ones that are like, well, not all, but like at least 80%, I swear, of the nonfiction I have is like stuff by Nathaniel Philbrook or Eric Larson or the stuff about the Mary Celeste or some other, mutiny, something about the end of the world where everyone goes crazy and there's like a mutiny or something. And I, for some reason, am really interested in like, I get his like boat book thing. I just happen to like the nonfiction. So, but yeah, I have a lot of boat books too on here is what I'm discovering. Okay, the next one is a classic. It's the Decameron. I haven't read it. I love the Canterbury Tales. I did like an entire like course in like study, like deep seminar study on the Canterbury Tales and read all of them. And we did like, a deep dive into every single one and Chaucer's life and the Middle Ages and the history and stuff. And so this is the kind of nerd I am. And I know that Decameron's kind of like the other one. And it looks great. And I know there's like some really funny stuff and some serious stuff, just like the Canterbury Tales. So I definitely need to read this. The next one's Fever Dream by George R. R. Martin because it's a vampire book. I used to like vampires a lot. And then obviously vampires got way overdone. And then I was sick of vampires. But I actually would like to read something by George R. R. Martin that is not like remotely related, that is not in any way connected to Westeros and, Game of Thrones. So, or the world of Song of Ice and Fire. So I want to read this and, see if I like his writing beyond, that. So, and then The Daughter of Time, this is just on a list of like one of the, it's like, like the top 10 mysteries of all time. And this is consistently like, I looked at a bunch of different people's lists, like, magazines and, like all like Time and, I think like the, one of the British newspapers usually does like lists for books, and this seems to show up a lot. This is in like so many top 10s of like one of the best mysteries ever. It doesn't even sound that interesting to me, but I'm going to check it out. So that's one of the ones. The Moonstone, I could also have The Woman in White, but I think The Moonstone is considered more of the classic by Wilkie Collins, and it's gothic and horror. So, and I love that kind of stuff. So that was next. And then another sort of gothic horror, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I really like Shirley Jackson. I actually don't like The Haunting of Hill House that much. I like the concept, but it didn't really work for me. But her short stories were fantastic. I always loved The Lottery, and this just sounds really great. Another one that's a little more of like a modern classic is Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. I've never read anything by her, and I know she's very popular, and this sounded really interesting to me. So this is one I would like to read. Light in August by William Faulkner. I love As I Lay Dying. That's one of my favorite classics, and I just have always said I'm going to read more Faulkner, and it's just been sitting in my pile since like 9th grade when I read As I Lay Dying. So I could do Sound and Fury, but I just picked Light in August. Kind of the next one, like with Donna Tartt. I mean, she has 2 other books I haven't read, The Little Friend and The Goldfinch. So I put The Goldfinch because that's like her big one, but I want to read both of them. But so maybe I'll just swap in The Little Friend for the other Eric Larson because you can't go wrong, I guess, with 2 Donna Tartts. another person I have like multiple books I'd like to read by, but I picked The Dead Zone by Stephen King. I think the two I most want to read by Stephen King are The Dead Zone and Misery, because those are the two that I haven't even like tried to read or read part of, or I mean, I'd like to read Dr. Sleep because I do love The Shining. But so I picked The Dead Zone because I think this sounds more like my kind of thing, just in terms of plot and everything. So, I mean, Misery could be too, because I don't like a lot of supernatural stuff. And so, I know this has some, but it sounds like a little more of like a political thriller. So, next I have For Whom the Bell Tolls. I think this is the only novel of Hemingway's I haven't read. I've read a bunch of his short stories too, but I love Hemingway. I came around to Hemingway late. I used to hate him, but I do love Hemingway now, and I still haven't read For Whom the Bell Tolls, so I would like to do that. The Art of Fielding, I don't even know why, but for some reason this book, like, interests me. Like, I think it's just about, like, baseball players, like, in college, in their lives, but I always like, those kind of, not coming of age, but, like, right above that, right? So, like, not teen, not your young adult stuff, but, like, kind of those, like, college years and just past them. I mean, it's such an important part in your life, and it just sounds really interesting to me. So, and I don't read a lot of books about male friendship. I read a ton of books about female friendships, so I think it's about male friendship, so I find that interesting as well. So, for some reason, this book has always been, like, compelling to me, so, or, like, not compelling, like, just the concept seems compelling, so I want to read that. Brideshead Revisited is next, and this is just because I love, like, rich people behaving badly, but, like, there's got to be a certain, like, style to it. Secret History. I like some Bret Easton Ellis before he got a little too full of himself. I loved Saltburn, the movie. So, that's kind of why I would like to read that. Then I have The Night Circus. I actually started this years ago, and I'm not a big fantasy person, but I really liked the way it was written, and it seemed very interesting to me. I loved, like, just the writing in it, so even though I didn't finish it, I've been saying for years I was going to go back to it, and whenever I do, like, if you do some of those, like, pick a book for me sort of recommendations that you can do. It's like the AI stuff that different, like, libraries have, or, different places on the internet. You can just kind of put in some stuff about yourself and what types of books you like, and, they'll make some recommendations. I always get The Night Circus. So I'm like, all right, I got to read that. Next one is Middlemarch, which I have been saying since college I would read. So I just kind of feel like I need to do that. And then I have David Copperfield, which is funny because, like, I've read Great Expectations, I read Tale of Two Cities, I love Christmas Carol, I've read Oliver Twist, and those are obviously the bigger ones. But I really like Dickens. Like, he's not like breezy by any means, but I do think there's, like, a sort of snarky humor he does have in there, and I like a lot of, obviously, his social stuff. So I've always really liked his work. Like, I loved Great Expectations, even when I read it the first time when I was, young, in school. I was, like, one of the only people that liked it, but I loved it. And obviously Christmas Carol is one of my favorite books ever. I mean, the story's fantastic. Tale of Two Cities is a great story. It has, I think, one of the best endings, if not the best ending in any book of all time. So Oliver Twist was okay, but I mean, again, really great characters. So I just feel weird that I haven't read David Copperfield. So, yeah, that's on my list. Then I have The Murder at the Vicarage. I mean, really, it was any Miss Marple, but since, like, I've read, like, some Hercule Poirot and, like, random ones, I had never even thought to read them in order because, I mean, there's so many, and, like, when I was a kid and I first picked up Agatha Christie, it just, like, I didn't even know there were, like, a bunch, and so, I mean, honestly, I've just never read any Miss Marple, surprisingly, so I read, some of her standalone stuff, and then I've read, like I said, some Hercule Poirot stuff, but I would like to read something of Miss Marple, so I figure I might as well start with number one. And then I have His Majesty's Dragon, which is, I think, Temeraire. I hear this is really good, and it's, like, fantasy, but it's, like, historical fiction fantasy, and I love Strange and Norrell, and so I like kind of that, Game of Thrones kind of is like, essentially like historical fiction fantasy, except it's in a fictional world as opposed to, Strange New World. And I think this is actually set in real, it's more like speculative fiction. So I would just like to read this because that sounds interesting to me. And also like a dragon as the main character. So I think it's like adult How to Train Your Dragon, which, I love, whether it's for kids or not. I like the How to Train Your Dragon series as well. The movies. I haven't even read the books. And next one is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which I've never read anything by John le Carré. I've seen a couple of the movies based on his stuff, but I think this is his, big one. So this is one I'd really like to read, and I've had it forever. In Cold Blood, I think, this is just such a big, iconic book, and I've never read it. So I don't do true crime, really. It's bothersome to me. I know, it's very strange because I like a lot of dark stuff, and I like when books deal with some really dark things. Things don't generally bother me. I don't like animal violence, but I can read really, really messed up violence against human beings. And I actually like, things that can be kind of brutal in terms of the stories. But the problem I have with true crime is that I just feel uncomfortable. I guess I don't really mind as much with the Jack the Ripper stuff because it's so long ago that no one's around anymore. But I think that, that's what I have a hard time with is current true crime. It just bothers me because there's still either people are around who are affected by it or, family that are affected and people who've grieved that. And so I kind of want to not contribute to that. But In Cold Blood is a weird one because it's true crime that was basically fictionalized, and he just decided he took the concept and then ran with it. And it's this kind of, what is a creative nonfiction? So, but it's such a classic. And so I kind of want to read it. And then I have My Side of the Mountain, which might seem like a weird one, but my mom is not a reader. Honestly, even in college, she had my dad read her books and write her papers for her. She doesn't like to read. She's never liked to read. She always encouraged me to read, but I don't think I've ever seen her read a book. She's never read to me. My dad always read to me. And so my mom does not read. And I remember being very young and we were at the library and she was she pointed out My Side of the Mountain and she was oh, I always loved this book. And I think she read it when she was 10 or something. Because she recommended it to me when I was 8 or 9. And I meant to check it out. And then I feel I either did and never got to it. But I've always had this in the back of my mind as my mom has ever mentioned one book to me. She mentioned Rebecca, but I think she saw the movie. But my mom does not read, and so for her to recommend a book and have liked a book, again, maybe it was the only book she's ever read, but I just feel this weird thing, I should probably read the one book that she likes. All right, then I have The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I don't even really know why I want to read this. I think I like the cover and the title, and so there's that. So Dead Wake is the last crossing of the Lusitania. I find the Lusitania very, very interesting. So again, I don't know. I don't know if Sir Chonk has rubbed off on me with his boat books, but I do find these boat things kind of interesting. So that's nonfiction. I just want to read that. Name of the Rose. That was a movie I really wanted to see when I was 10 or 12 years old, and my parents were no, it's rated R, and you're not even gonna like it, it's boring or whatever. And so I wasn't allowed to see it, and I never got around to seeing it. And then I found out it was based on a book. Now I went to my whole I'm gonna read that someday before I actually watched the movie. And here we are. And it's been many years and many decades, and I have done neither of those things. But I always keep remembering, whenever I think of it, whenever I hear it referenced, I'm always oh, that's right, I really want to read that because it's a medieval mystery. And I love the medieval period, and I like murder and mysteries. So I definitely, and I think that I find religious kind of the religious trappings very interesting as well. Like, that's why I really liked Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code, and we saw Conclave, and like that was pretty solid. I just find it very, and I mean, I grew up Catholic. I'm not like super religious or anything, but there is something about like, you know, again, some of it's that history that I like really like, and then, you know, I don't know. I kind of like, I like stories set in like, I don't want to say like, but in like environments. That's why I like palace intrigue, and I like the religious stuff where like there are, and I like Victorian things where there's a lot of like expectations, like certain behaviors, and then like certain standards and traditions, and everybody has to like keep things a certain way. So it ends up like there's all this like underlying kind of stuff happening, and I just find that very interesting. So anyway, I do want to read this eventually. And then I have The Remains of the Day. I have read, I think Kazuo Ishiguro might have written that other one that's really popular about like the kids, and they like time travel or something, but they're in like at Oxford or something. I can't remember the name of the book, and it's super famous, and I didn't like it. I thought it was all right, but I was like, eh. But I mean, so I think that's the same author. I could be confusing, and I probably am an idiot. I'm going to check, because I feel like I'm talking about nonsense, and someone's going to be like, that is not a thing. Never Let Me Go. That one. It was okay. Like, I just didn't love it. But The Remains of the Day sounds very much like a thing. My husband calls them my hat movies that I like. And again, I like that feeling of like people having like sort of their like etiquette and like standards. And so there's all this stuff going on, but like they can't talk about certain things, or you have to behave a certain way. And I don't know, I find that interesting. So I have A Dangerous Fortune by Ken Follett on here, but I also own like Whiteout, and I think Eye of the Needle. And then I also own the rest of the series that goes with, I can't remember the name of the book right now. The one with the cathedral, the Pillars of the Earth, that whole series, Knightsbridge Saga or whatever. But I want to read something that isn't related to that, because I want to see like if I like other stuff that he's written, because he does have a lot of books, and I liked those a lot. I found his historical fiction, I'm very particular about historical fiction, and a lot of times it feels really boring. His was very interesting to me, so I don't know, I'm curious to see if I like it. I have War and Peace on here because I feel like it's like it should be on everyone's like eventual books I'm going to read before I die kind of thing. So we'll see. I think it's also like the funny thing that like no one ever finishes this book. I don't know if no one does. Hey, if you've read it, let me know. And then I have Strange Sally Diamond, just because it sounds like something I'd really like, and everyone really loves this, and so obviously I haven't read it, so I would like to read it. God of the Woods just came out, but it was like rated best like thriller or something last year, and it sounds like something I'd really like, so I have that on here, and I got that for Christmas. I have Alexander Hamilton's bio, which is obviously the basis of the play Hamilton, and I really like the play Hamilton, so I figure, I'd like to read the book, and I have it. Outlander, I've never read. I don't know, like, people are like, no, it's not romance, but I really don't like romance, and I think there's, like, graphic sex scenes, and I'm really not into that, reading that, so I don't know, we'll see, maybe it's not at all, maybe it's not romance, maybe it's, like, more than that, but, I do kind of feel like I should read it, because it's, like, pretty famous, like, at some point, you get to, like, I feel like there are certain books you're just like, okay, I just got to read it. I could be, one of the next ones I actually am probably going to actually read like soon. If not, like I may already be reading it by the time I'm posting this video. But All the Colors of the Dark, because it sounds like the type of book I would absolutely love. It's like thriller, but about like childhood trauma and girls and like their secrets, but it's also supposed to be literary and heartbreaking and about community, and like all the things I really like. And also, I think this is a read with Jenna pick, and I don't really care at all about most celebrity book clubs and stuff. And in fact, like, I would say, like, Reese's book club, because I know that's, like, one of the most popular, and, like, Oprah's is, like, she does a lot of classics, so hers are kind of, like, all over the place, and so, I mean, I've liked a lot of those, but I'd already read a lot of those, so I never really read them because Oprah recommended them. They were just mostly classics anyway. But I have read some of the Reese's book club stuff, because I was like, hey, maybe I'll try these. These all sound like books I would like. And honestly, I've probably liked maybe 20% of the ones I've read. So, but Jenna Bush Hager, I think is her last name, she, I think everything I've read of hers, maybe one I didn't like, but I'm pretty sure everything she has had in her book club, I have absolutely loved, or at least liked. And I'm pretty sure, like, loved. Like, I think a lot of her books have been 5-star reads for me, and some of my favorite reads. So, I mean, I'd have to go back and, like, do the research, but that's just one of, but I kind of tend towards her. So obviously she and I have, like, similar like reading preferences. So I think if there's any celebrity book club that I think I consistently have liked the stuff that they have, you know, their little stickers on, hers are. So this is one of those as well. So then I have the Brothers Karamazov or however you say it. I have only read only Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground, which I adored. But I started this, and I've probably read, like, a decent chunk of it, but it's very long. And then, like, I don't remember why, but, like, I started it, and then, like, something happened in my life, and I just didn't get back to it. And then I was like, I'll get back to it eventually, and I haven't. And it's been, like, 15 years or 20 years. So I want to get back to it because I was really enjoying it. And I like his writing a lot. So Dostoevsky. So, the second to last one is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I've read most of John Steinbeck's stuff. I mean, well, I've read Grapes of Wrath. I've read, Of Mice and Men, The Pearl, Red Pony. So actually, I just guess this is just those four, because there might be one more. But I haven't read Tortilla Flats, and I haven't read Cannery Row, and I haven't read East of Eden. So, I hate The Pearl. Like, I don't think I hate any book as much as I hate The Pearl. But I liked Grapes of Wrath, and I mean, I read it in high school, and I still liked it, even though it was slow. I mean, it wasn't, but I mean, Of Mice and Men is one of my favorite books. It's amazing. The Red Pony was pretty decent, but I like his writing style too. And obviously East of Eden, is something that, you know, is, again, one of those classics. And so I feel like I might like it. I might not. We'll see. But I like his writing style. So, yeah, we'll see. And then my last one, and I don't know, my last one is Winds of Winter. And I might be 50 before this book comes out, or I might be dead and the book might never come out. So I'm putting it on here because I'm kind of like, hey, please be out in time for me to be 50 and also to finish it. So that's on there. But, you know, as I approach my 50th birthday in a few years, I'll probably still be getting updates about how he's not done. So then I'll have to come up with something else. I don't know. So anyway, those are the books I want to read in the next, I don't know, 3 years or whatever, 4 years until I turn 50. So yeah, now that you all know I'm like super old. But anyway, that's that. Let me know if you've read any of this stuff. Like I said, mostly it's heavy on the classics because it's kind of those, like, I'm reaching that point in my life where I'm like, all right, enough with this. Like, I'll read it someday. Like, eventually I'm not going to be able to read books anymore. So, like, let's just get these done. So, but yeah, let me know which one you think I should start with. All right. Bye.